What disturbing secret did you discover about your partner after getting married? I just found out my wife slept with another man 4 years ago. We've been together for 5, and my wife and I got married 3 years ago after dating for 2 years prior. Her sister got married 2 weeks ago, and of course my wife was at the wedding party. As you'd expect, she spent 2 weeks before the wedding helping her sister get everything ready. Now, this wasn't a big deal at all because she kept me in the loop and I knew what was going to happen. A few hours before the ceremony on Saturday morning, I showed up hoping to see her before everything became hectic, and I didn't want to intrude knowing that she was busy, but I hadn't seen her since Tuesday. Seeing me outside of her parents' house, she sent her little brother out to come tell me she'd come see me in the car. Now, I found this kind of odd, but I let it slide. When she finally came out, she sat next to me, gave me a kiss, and instead of being happy to see me, she told me we needed to talk. She didn't want to see her sister's big day get ruined. She told me that at the reception, I might hear some stories about the best man and her, and she didn't want it to be awkward or strange. Now, this left me stunned. She admitted that 4 years ago, she'd had a fling with him, and that it didn't mean anything. She said she knew I tend to get jealous and wanted me to know in advance so that I wouldn't be surprised. And still, I was stunned. This was not the start to my day that I'd imagined. And I told her I appreciated the information and it certainly wasn't a big deal now. She went back inside of the house and I left to eat my lunch, planning to meet her at the church. And while I was eating and looking at my phone, it dawned on me that she said she had the fling 4 years ago, but we've been together for 5. At first, I thought she just told me the wrong time, but then I started to remember a year and a half into our relationship when she was acting strange, she was unavailable when she usually was, and she went on 2 weekend camping trips with her work friends. I was quite unsettled by this, but I knew I had a long day ahead of me. I attended the wedding and watched everything, keeping my feelings to myself, and after the wedding, as I congratulated the bride and groom, the best man was there, and my wife was standing with a different person. I just acted as if it was not a big deal. At the reception, I waited a long time for them to arrive because of all the photos they had to take. And when my wife finally arrived, she sat down with me, and I decided not to say anything as not to distract her from the day. However, she then told me that she would be dancing with the best man as the bridesman and groomsmen were set to dance. I questioned this, but she told me that the maid of honor and her partner were actually married and wanted to dance with each other. Now, I was a bit upset, but I tried not to let it show, and thankfully I chose not to drink, knowing that I can become a little bit angry when intoxicated. Now, she was socializing with everybody around her, and then the dance part came around. The best man came over, extended his arm, and she got up. I made a point not to watch. After the dance, they returned joking and reminiscing about old times and places, and she decided to introduce us to each other. I was less than cordial, which did not seem to deter him from sitting and chatting with her for a few minutes. The more they talked, the angrier I became. Eventually, I excused myself to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, he was gone. She accused me of being rude, which I didn't want to hear at that time. I told her this was not the place, this is not the time, and we will discuss it later. She then announced that she was going to change her clothes and tell her sister that we were leaving because I had ruined her day. I told her that I was capable of not causing any drama for the rest of the day and I would prefer to stay. She came back changed and upset, despite me not having said anything and even shaken the other guy's hand. She claimed I was visibly miserable and that's what she was reacting to, and she insisted on leaving, so I said if she really wanted to go, we could, but I'd rather she would stay, and I'd be happy to stay as well. Or I could leave since I had my own car. And at first she said, okay, we'll stay. But then she suggested if I couldn't improve my behavior, we should leave. Or in other words, I should leave. And I asked her, how am I misbehaving? She said it's super obvious that I was upset and that I was acting like a silverback gorilla ready to fight. Whatever that means. I was taken aback. I returned inside and sat down while she mingled with the guests. I spoke with their brother for a while, but eventually ended up back on our table talking with their Gma. We left at the same time and I arrived home just before she did. I was sitting in the living room waiting for her when she arrived and immediately asked her to clarify the story about the best man. She repeated her initial account, and after staring at her for a while, I asked her if she was sure about the time frame, and she confirmed. I then reminded her that we'd been together for a year when that occurred. Instead of denying it or seeming flustered, she simply said, I know. She then explained that they worked together and it was just a physical thing. She thought we weren't in a good place at the time and never intended to leave me. She was just having some fun for a few weekends, and she said it was probably a mistake to tell me now, but she didn't want me to get blindsided. I didn't react the way that she thought I would. I ended up having a massive argument, and it concluded when she accused me of being childish. I told her I needed time to think about it, and she told me there's nothing to think about. We loved each other and this didn't change anything. That was 2 weeks ago and I'm still not over it. She's been trying to get me to talk to her for the past few days, but I admit that for whatever reason, I'm not viewing her the same as I did before. This part of me is like, this is stupid. It happened a few years ago and we're married and there hasn't been any problems at all. But then this other part of me is like, I just found out she cheated on me and it hurts. And what makes it worse is that instead of trying to understand how I feel, she's trying to guilt me into not even thinking about it at all, and I just don't know what to do.